Trump's former campaign manager, is waking up behind bars this morning. Paul Manafort had his bail revoked. He is accused of attempting to get witnesses to lie for him in court. Manafort headed up Trump's presidential campaign for nearly 5 months in 2016. He is awaiting trial on charges that include tax fraud, money laundering, and illegal lobbying. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. For a closer look, let's turn now to Bradley Moss in Washington. He's a national security lawyer and a partner at Mark Zaid law firm. Brad, thank you for making time for us this morning. So let's begin with the fact that Manafort is in prison now. What is the significance of putting him there?
This is a significant fall from grace for Paul Manafort. He's been a power broker and a major political operative in D.C. political circles for decades, and he's waking up this morning behind bars. He's inmate number, insert number, number here. So now he has a choice to face. He played the game as long as he could. He even tried to tamper, apparently, with witnesses. That's certainly the allegation in the indictment, the superseding indictment. He's got a choice now. Does he want to truly take this to trial, where apparently, according to leaks, he believes he's probably going to be convicted on some of these charges of money laundering and tax fraud? Or is he ready to make a deal? Is he going to try to save his family as much as he can, try to lessen the financial burden, and try to make a deal to make sure that maybe he possibly could see the outside of a jail cell while he's still alive?
So let's break that down a little bit, because he's in jail right now on the issue of witness tampering. But as you mentioned, there are these much more intense charges coming, especially around illegal money laundering, dealing including with all sorts of international organizations, potentially other international governments. This issue of him flipping, what is the likelihood of that? Is this just the government putting pressure on him so that they get more evidence in the larger investigation?
Well, that's always been the assumption. Even one of the judges hearing one of Manafort's 2 cases, more or less said that out loud to the special counsel's legal team, saying, you just want him to flip so that he'll provide you whatever he's got on the president, Donald Trump. And that's always been the assumption that that's truly why they're going after Manafort. So if Paul Manafort has something, if he's got damaging information, if he's got something to trade to the special counsel's team in exchange for a lessened plea deal, lower charges and lesser sentence, this would be more or less the time he's going to do it. His first trial starts next month. He's got a second one in September. That's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in legal fees. If he's got something to trade, you're going to see a flurry of negotiation activity and leaks about discussions between the prosecutors and his team over the next few weeks. And if he's got something, that's going to be where we see if this investigation actually has some true meat on the bones, or if it's just going to pick up the low-hanging fruit like Paul Manafort.
What is it that they think he might have? What do they believe Mueller might be able to tell them?
So Paul Manafort came in this transitional period in the campaign between the Corey Lewandowski and the Kellyanne Conway timeframe, where the campaign was kind of in flux. And when you brought in Paul Manafort, you brought in someone who had a lot of experience running convention and wrangling delegates, but who also had a lot of ties to Russian and Ukrainian interests. And so the suspicion has always been that if there truly was some type of criminal coordination between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives, that Paul Manafort would have been the one who would have spearheaded that if there was something illegal, whether the president knew about it or not, that Paul Manafort would have been the one to have gotten that going. So if there's something for him to trade, it's going to be damaging information along those lines.
If you were representing Manafort, what would you tell him to do?
Honestly, assuming he wants to try to one day get out of that jail cell, wants to one day still see his grandkids beyond, a two-way glass, he's got to cut a deal. He's got to turn over whatever he has, however damaging, however much it would destroy his political career, destroy his ability to still make money. He's got to offer up something with the hope that he can get out in order to have a few years left with his family when he's in his 80s or 90s.
Let's talk about one other person in this ongoing investigation, which is, of course, Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. There seems to be musings that he might be willing to cooperate with the larger investigation. What do you know on that front?
Yeah, well, Michael Cohen faces an interesting situation in his own right. So he was part of the very tight inner circle for the president, and quite possibly knows more than anyone else in the president's family where the proverbial bodies are buried. He was the president's fixer for years. If anybody knows where the shady stuff was going on, all those years back leading before the president's campaign and during the context of the campaign, such as making hush money deals with people like Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen knows the details. And what's interesting, what we're going to find out, and what we've kind of seen a hint of it with this special master reviewing all the documents that the FBI collected, is how little of his work actually qualified as legal work and actually would not fall under attorney-client privilege. Almost nothing that they collected. Phones, iPads, all of his computers, virtually a small percentage of it was actually privileged. The overwhelming amount of it had nothing to do with legal work. So if Michael Cohen flips, the president's got some serious problems because he knows, like I said, where the bodies are buried.